Okay, so I hope you guys can see the screen now, right? So, we have seen a simple servlet yesterday, so like login and validation, right? So today we are going to see like how you can actually pass on. So after validating, how can you actually pass on this thing to, if everything goes fine, we will go to one page, and if validation fails, we'll go back to login. So today we'll see that part, how we can actually do that. So so that part is normally called as servlet collaboration. So there are many ways that you can actually do the servlet collaboration as such, right? Collaboration. Like we'll be checking out each and everything. The first one is you can use a request dispatcher. Request dispatcher to actually collaborate. Now, whenever we are talking about collaboration.
Sorry to disturb.
Yeah, sure.
Hello.
Yeah,
Are you recording the class?
Yeah, I'm recording. Yes, I'm recording the class.
Earlier we used to see some green thing that is recording. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Here we have, right? And yeah, I'm also recording from here, so no worries. Huh? Thanks, Chola. Yeah. And then you have something called send redirect, right? So this is the second way to actually create a collaboration. Now here, whenever we say collaboration, right, it is like moving from one servlet to other servlet, or one servlet to other any resource. It can be HTML or a servlet or a JSP, anything, right? So that is where we call it as a collaborating one entity to other entity. We are more focusing now on servlet. So from servlet, these are the ways how you can actually move on to the other resources, right? Which is request dispatcher, send redirect, and then you have something called something which you can write your own, which is using the logic with form tag. You can also create some HTML form in server 2. We'll be checking out that. So these are the different ways where you can actually move from one entity to other entity, right? We'll be first taking about the request dispatcher. So request dispatcher, in the name itself you can see, let us say you have one. So this will be our use case. So we have one page called login. It can be HTML or JSP, don't worry about that. So we have used the HTML page, that's fine. And then we created one servlet called validation servlet, right? So in this validation servlet, what we used to do is whenever user clicks on login, right? So there is a username and password. When we click on login, what happens? The form that will create a query string for us using this name attributes of this element, and here we have an option to read the element. You can either read it, the each and every key, or you can actually use request get parameter names to read all the keys. That doesn't matter. So what matters here is we are getting the specific username and password, right? Now here, so what we used to do is we directly used to paint something, right? Okay, so if we never checked anything, right? We just got the username and just painted. Now here what we'll do is, from here we want to move to some other page, let us say, right? So there will be two different stages, right? So one is login fails, or the second may be login pass. So that is what we have. Now here, so here, from here we can either move to, maybe let us say, if it passed, if the condition here is passed, right? So then maybe we will be moving to something called, we'll create one HTML called welcome.jsp, maybe, right? Welcome.html, right? Or if it fails validation, we have to route it back to, let us say, login.html. But login.html, but the page should be on validation, and we should show some data that there is a wrong credential being provided, please make it right. So we'll get back to login.html. We'll see how we can do that. So here we will be using two things under request dispatcher. You can see request dispatcher. What we are doing is we are trying to get the request. Now this is a request. Whatever we have got, right, in our query stream is nothing but a request to this servlet, to this validation servlet, right? And what we are doing, we are again dispatching the same servlet to some other resource. It can be our welcome.html or get back to our login.html. But we are actually dispatching. So request dispatcher is mainly used if you want to send the data. It can be in a query string or a body or anything, right? To the next resources, we will be using request dispatcher. That is what it is. So we will be checking out whether the same data is available for the next resources or not. We will be checking out. Now let us create this environment of passed and failed. And now in the situation of request dispatcher, you have two ways of actually moving to two internal methods in request dispatcher which are used to move. The first one is you have something called forward method, right? Forward is nothing but in forward you will be sending the request whatever you are getting, and you will be also sending the response. And then you have something called include, right? So both are the internal methods of request dispatcher. Whenever you create an object of request dispatcher, you will get two options of forwarding the request and including. Now here forward is nothing but the request from the current servlet, right? You are actually dispatching that to another resource. That is what it is forward. Now the include is something you are including some other page or resource in the current response. That is what is include. We'll be checking out how they actually work, right? Even this include will have to give the request and the response. The basic functionality will be same. We have to dispatch the current request whatever we are getting in the current servlet, right? So we'll be using these two, and these are the only two methods which we can use in request dispatcher to move from one resource to other resource, right? It can be a page or a servlet or a JSP, right? Now let us see how we can use them actually. Now here we'll do one thing. First let us create a welcome page. Now let me create an HTML here. Let me call it as welcome.html. So here initially let us say just login successful. Let us just say I'm just giving some text here, right? Okay, it also gives something. We'll just give some text. So later on we'll see how the request whatever we are getting here is being passed on to this side. Now first we will be just using this welcome.html. Now let's get back to this servlet which is validation servlet, and we have got this username and password. Okay, let us print this and after this maybe we just comment this out. Now what we want to do is we want to check this username. If my username, right, let us say username dot equals, right, let us give something like xyz. If it is xyz, then I'll make it pass, right? If it is equal, then it is my pass condition which is passed, right? And else condition we want to do something else. Now as we were discussing, if the login passed, then we want to go to the welcome.html. Now how to go to that is, now we will be using request dispatcher. You have request dispatcher. You have request dispatcher under your Java Servlet. You can see here the request dispatcher is again under your Java Servlet itself, right? So request dispatcher is an interface under the Servlet package, right? Now let us say it is lobjrd request dispatcher is equal to. Now here you can see that I cannot actually make an object of request dispatcher. As I was talking about, this is an interface class, right? interface, which is anonymous type. Right? So what you have to do, you directly have to get the object of resource dispatcher. Now how can you get that? Is I can get it from a request, because I want to dispatch my request, right? So I'll be going to request dot, I'll just say get request dispatcher, and here I have to mention to which resource I want to go. So here we want to go to welcome.html. That is where we have to give. Now till this part, what we have seen is, so we have created an object of the current request using a request.get request dispatcher, and we have provided the resource name to where we want to go, right? And then just say, so this is a simple creation of object, but you have to use one of the methods, either a forward or include, to actually move into that. So what we'll do, we'll just first use something called forward, right? Now you can see it is asking for servlet request and servlet response, which means whatever servlet request response we have received in get, we'll be sending the same thing over here, right? Because we are actually sending the same request and response to the next resource. So that is how you actually make use of your request dispatcher and the forward method. Using this, it will go to the welcome.html. Now, in our second case, which is else case, we want to go back to the login validation. Now, in that, again we will be using request dispatcher. Let us say is equal to, I can say request dot get request dispatcher of. Now here where I have to go, I have to go back to my login.html, which is, I can just say login.html. And now what we'll be showing is, we want to get this login page into my servlet, and I want to show something called, yes, this is not working, or I would say credentials are wrong, please work on it. That is what I want to show here, right? So for that, what I can do here, I have to create a print writer here. So let's just copy this same thing. We have already created this print writer, and before this, if needed, we will be checking out this print writer. And so before going to this login page, we'll just use my out.write, just say login field, provide right credentials, something. And then what we'll do, so here when I am writing out.write, which means I'm using this servlet to write. I want to write the message, and I also want to show this login.html, which means I'm actually collaborating two things here. So for that, what I have to do, if I have to write something and also show this, I have to use something called include, right? Dot, I have something called include, where we'll be sending the same request and response to that, right? Now this is how you do use your include and your forward. Okay. Now let me just write the same thing here, and we'll see whether it prints up or not. Just say login passed. We'll just see this, okay? Now that is what we have created. So as of now we are just checking username, it's fine. Password, you can just expand your conditions till whatever stage you want password or some other keys and all, right? But that is not important. What is important here is to understand the request dispatcher part. Okay? Now let us run this one, which is, let me go back here. Let me run this login.html. Right, let me open this Mozilla one. Let me copy this URL. Now here, I would like to show one more thing here. So now you can see this is my Mozilla. Let me copy this part, and now you can see the same URL whatever I've copied here, I've pasted here, and it is working fine. Now here, sometimes you would have this may not be the URL which you will be using sometimes, right? Sometimes what you want to do is maybe you just don't want to give the page name. You don't want to remember the page name. Then it should go to the login page. Now you can see here it is going to some other page. Right? Welcome, please click to go. Why? Because if you remember, yesterday we have created one page called index.html, right? And in our web.xml, right? We were talking about this welcome file. There we gave something called index.html. Now I'll change this to login.html. Right? So let's go back here and let me refresh. Right? Oh, I have to restart because I have changed my configuration here. Restart this. And let's go back here. Just go to the URL and just say refresh. Now can you see? It went to my login.html. Now can you see this tab? It automatically loaded something. So what is loading this? So yesterday we did something called save the details, right? Save password. So when we click on something save password, right, you can see the browser itself save the details of this. So that is what happened here. Username and password. That's why we are getting this username and password, right? That doesn't matter. First we just replace this with XYZ because we want to see the success situation here. Because you can see here if we get XYZ, which means login passed, and then it will go to welcome.html. And in welcome.html we are just doing something called login successful. Let's go back and click on login. When you log in, you can see login successful, and you can see only login successful, and you are not able to see something called this login passed. Why? Because we are completely moving from the current servlet to some other resource, which is welcome.html, right? That's why in that case we will be using forward, because we are not here to pull both welcome.html and validation. That's why we completely use forward, and whatever is there in welcome.html will be shown up here, which is login successful, right? So that is your past state. Now here you can see the main thing here is you can even see the same servlet name validation. Right? Basically, if you are going to some resource, we should see welcome.html. But no, if you are using request dispatcher, it will only dispatch the request, but it will be in the same servlet. Right? It won't go to that resource here in URL part, but it will be in the same part. I'll show you how to actually change even the servlet name here, right? Whenever we are going to this next page. Basically, this page is welcome.html. But here you can see the servlet name, which is true, because we are using request dispatcher, which means we just want to dispatch the request, and I don't want to move to the complete welcome.html physically. That is what I am using here. Now let us see the fail case. Let's go back to the credentials page again. Right? Here's mine. Now let us say I'm giving ABCD and something. Let me click on login. Now can you see this? When I clicked on login, it again came back to the same page, but you can see there is some other thing which is being printed. Login failed, please provide credentials. Now in my login, if I go to login page, I haven't written anything like that, and even I'm not even check whether it is there or not, right? I'm not checking that. But who is doing that? We are actually doing that part in our servlet, where what I'm doing, I'm writing on a page and I'm including other page. Including which page? Whatever we give here, the resource will be included beneath this part. That is what happens. Do anything here, just say I'm just giving some breaks here, right? Do anything back here, let's go back and just refresh this part, right? Or let's check this out again. Login.html and login. Now you can see there are two enters, two spaces being happened. So that is what you can do actually. If you don't want to create a separate validation in your login page that okay, do this and that. No, you don't have to do this, right? So this was your fail case, if you remember. When you go to this was your username password. When you click on this, login failed and provided credentials. Now Let me click this on again. When you click again, the validation was not successful. So it went here. Now let me give the validation as true, XYZ. When I click on, you can see that it goes to login successful. Right? So that is how your page works using the request dispatcher. So that is how you can see that you're actually moving from one resource to other resource by dispatching the request. Now the question here is, I want to show the data in my next page or something, right? Now what we have to do? Now as of now we are looking into some HTML, right? Let's get out of this HTML because I don't want to do something in here, because we'll be checking out how to get the request from server to page. We'll be checking out in JSP, right? But as of now, what we'll do, let me just create welcome as a servlet, right? But not as a page. Let me just delete this, and what we'll do, we'll just create a servlet, new servlet. Let me call the class name as welcome and finish. So in this, so what I'm going to do in my get, I'll let the same thing. So I'll just say response dot set content type as my text or HTML type, let us say, and then I'll get my print writer. Obj is equal to, we always use out is equal to, I want to get the print writer of response, so I'll get my writer, right? I'll get my response writer, and then let's say out dot print or write, either one is fine. Just say login successful. Right? So once this is done, just say out dot close. Now here, as we have changed the page to servlet, right? So let's go back here and just remove this .html, right? That's it. A simple thing here. Now let me restart the server here, and let's go back. Let's go back to our original URL. Click on that, right? We got this. Now let us say, click on this. As this was failed, it will come to login field and provide credentials. Let me give the right credentials, XYZ, click on login. Now you can see again it went to login successful, but here you can see the URL as same, because if you are using the request dispatcher, you will be getting the same URL and the query string, right? That will be there. But yes, internally, right, it will be moving on to the next resource. The current resource what we are using is the servlet here, where we said login successful. Now, the question here is, so when we are moving to one server to other server, what I want to do is, so if the login is passed, I want to show here like this, login successful, out dot write. I want to show it as welcome and the user. I want to show the username here. How can I show? But I don't have any information in this current servlet, but the information is here with my validation servlet using my query string. That is what I'm getting, right? Because from login, whenever I click on submit, right, my form tag will convert these details into query string, and it is sending it here. Now from this servlet, how can I send it to welcome is a question. Now here, that is what we are doing. If you are using request dispatcher, automatically whatever you are getting, you are getting details in your validation, right? It will be the same query string will be dispatched to next thing, which means even here we can use the same way to read the query string. Let me just say I'm taking it as username is equal to, just use request, because this request and response, whatever you are forwarding, are being cached here. Request and response. Just say request dot get parameter of your union. Okay. Is it a correct key? Let's take the right key of union here and paste it here. Right. So with this you will be getting the username. Just say welcome space, just give some username. That's it. Now, so this is somewhere which you have got the information from some other resource to the next servlet. Right? So let's restart. Go back to the page here again. Right? Now again it will fail. Now it will fail. Now let's go back and just say XYZ. Click on login. Right? Now you can see login successful and welcome. Whatever the user we are giving, right, will be shown here. That is what happens. That is how the request from login page is delivered to validation servlet. Again from validation servlet, again it is being delivered to the next resource, which is welcome.html. Welcome servlet. Right? And we are showing that here. That is how you use request dispatcher to actually move on with the different things. Right? Now if you want to just say break it up, here we are, because login successful, and after that I want to give some spaces and show. Right? Now you can do that. So let's go back here. Login servlet, just replace this with XYZ. Just say login, right, and says login successful, and it will lead to bake and welcome text. So that is how the complete thing goes. Now how this is working? We have an HTML tag. How is it working? Because we have made our response compatible with our HTML. That's why it is compatible. If you give it as plain in the sense you don't want any thing HTML tags to work, right? If our servlet or if our servlet container is actually taking care of this, then it works. But normally what we're doing, we're actually making my response as a plain text. Let's go and check whether this is happening or not. So we have your servlet, you have your XYZ and some name. Click on login. Now you can see it will just show as a normal text. The BR, right? Please show it. Because the response content type you have given is a plain, so whatever you write, it will be just shown. So always make it as HTML, so that if you are actually making any thing here, it will be working there. Right? That's how it works. Right? Now you can see when you refresh, it will automatically go to the text. Now here, previously we have seen something. When I enabled it with HTML, right, automatically even the font and everything got changed. Now what is this font? This font is nothing but in each and every browser, right, you can actually set the default font of the browser, right? So that will be applied by default for any HTML, whatever you paste or paste it on your browser. So this is something which is being done by browser. This something called the font and some everything, placing that at the right place, everything is being done by our browser. That is something we call it as a compatibility of browser, which is perfect here, right? So that is how we use our request dispatcher. Fine. Any doubts in request dispatcher, guys? Yeah. Again, it's a straightforward thing, but yes, there are something which you have to understand as well. Okay? So this is something which is our request dispatcher. Okay? Now let's go and understand the next one, which is send redirect. So the send redirect is something which is again a straightforward one, that in our send redirect, right? So the main theme of send redirect is we just want to send, or we just want to move from the current servlet to the next resource. That's it, right? Now this send redirect is something which also you can use it for relative URLs. Right, relative URL in the sense, let us say in your web page you want to give a URL, you want to show some URL, and when I click on that, right, what you want to do is you want to move from your current website to some other website itself, right? So in that case we will be using send redirect. I am talking about servlet, guys. We are not in JSPs or anything now, because in JSP send something, it is something else. But if you want to move, servlet is a simple Java class, right? It's a simple Java class, but in from Java class, what you want to do is you want to move from Java class to some other website, right? That is what we're doing. So in that case, we'll be using a send redirect, and this method, send redirect method, is a HTTP servlet request method. It comes, response method, not request, because send redirect is something which we are moving through response. So it is something which is a servlet response method, and it can be, any resource. It can be your servlet, one more servlet you can move, or to a JSP, or to a HTML, right? Or to FTP page, any page you can move from something to other page, right? So that is what is send redirect. Let us just check out how this send redirect works. Let me just close out, and let me create something brand new. Let us say I want to create a new HTML file, and let me just call it as page 1 something. So in this page 1, let me just copy this form and submit, right? So what I do is I don't want anything else, right? I'll just take one form and one submit. Here I'll say go, right? I'll just remove this submit part. Now here what we'll do, we'll create a servlet here. Oops. Now in this servlet, let us do it as send redirect servlet, some name, right, so that you can understand this part. Now first, let's come back here and just say action as send redirect servlet, and let's not give any method. You can give any method. If you don't give any method, by default it will come to the servlet and your get method will be triggered. Okay. In our get method, right, let us just say we have a try catch here, and then what's up, guys? Yeah, join me one second. I just got a call from, I'm just responding to that message. Okay, sorry guys. So yeah, what we'll do, we'll just come whenever we click on go, we'll be coming to this servlet. So from this servlet, let us say I want to go to some other page. Okay? So here, what we want to do is, let us say we want to go to some other website itself. Let's see how. Okay? So here, let us say I want to use the redirect one. So you can directly say response, right, dot, you have something called send redirect, and you can give anything here. Now as of now, let us see, I want to give some login page directly. I want, whenever I click on this go, right, I want to come back to my login.html, right? You can just say here login.html, right? So this login.html will redirect your request from page 1 to login. So let's run this part. Let's go back, and here let me give my URL as page1.html. Right? Oops. Oh, sorry, page1.html. Right, now here we got a simple button to click on go. Now when I click on go, you can see it came to my HTML. Now you can see that whenever I am using this send redirect, right, now you can see here I am using my send redirect servlet. From my servlet I am moving to some other resource. But when we used the same thing in our previous servlet, when we used request dispatcher, right, the previous case, request dispatcher, what used to happen? It used to show the same, now here we are in login.html, right? Let me give some XYZ and something, click on go. Now you can see we are seeing something which is a servlet name, but here in this case we are actually getting the actual resource. That is what happens with your send redirect. As I said, your send redirect will actually move from your current servlet to the physical page itself, right? It has nothing to do with the current servlet as such. That is what happened here, right? When we clicked on page1.html, right, it went to our page 1. When I click on go, what is happening internally? It is first go. When I click on go here, it will go to this page, do get in my send redirect servlet, and in send redirect I am actually calling my login.html. That is why it is moving on to my login.html. That is how it works. Now there is something which is internal. Let us check out the external one. External is nothing but I want to move to some other page, which is, let us say I want to go to my Google page. Let's say I'm just saying here www.google.com. I'm just taking an example, guys. You can just give anything here, right? Let's go back to the page1.html, and when I click on go here, now you can see it redirects me to the Google page. But actually I am actually coming from my page 1. So whatever link you want to give, you can give up here. When I click on this go, right, it went to here, which is my the current servlet, right? And then from here we are just redirecting it to something else, right? Some other page. Now here it is very important to mention the complete URL. Now let us say if you are giving a simple www.google.com, what happens here? Let us see. Right? Let's go back to the page 1. Okay. When I click on go, see what happens. Now even now it is going. Sometimes what happens if you just say something called google.com. Sometimes when you say google.com directly, what happens here is, let me go to page 1. Yeah? See here, it will go in this way, right? You can see here, it will try to search that, okay, this resource is there under your URL, which is not correct, right? Sometimes it will search in this way. So for that you have to give, if whatever you are giving, try to mention your complete URL here, right? So that it will actually move that page. Right? HTTP with HTTP, right? If you go back and just refresh this page and click on go, now it will go to your google.com. Anyways, I have to restart my server here. Now if anything doesn't work, right, just restart the server what you have in your Tomcat and try to restart your browser too, right? Because in this browser maybe your last session would have saved. When you click on go now you can see it went to the page. Right? So that is how your this works, which is your send redirect works. That is how we can actually move to some other URL or the resource which is internal to the same web application, right? That is what your send redirect. It's a quite straightforward work, right? Now and then we have something called using some logic. Using some logic is something where you have to write whatever you are writing in our page here, right? I mean the HTML page. What we'll do, instead of writing in our HTML page, we'll be writing in something called a servlet itself. That is what we are going to do, right? Now let us write whatever we are doing here in our page 1. Let us do it in some servlet. Let us see how it works, right? Even here what we are doing, you can see here from my page 1, I'm moving from one resource to other resource. I'm doing some collaboration thing, but I'm not using servlet here, right? So let us see how I can use this action, form action tag element in my servlet. Let me click on the new servlet. Let me just say this servlet is page 1 servlet, right? It is parallel to page 1, okay? Page 1 servlet. Now in this, what I want to do is, I want to run the direct servlet and I want to move from here to my send direct and from here to something else, right? Let's create that. Now in my page 1 serve, in order to create any HTML, form page in this, right, what you have to do is, obviously you will be writing something called print writer. Till now, what we used to do something called print write, right? We used to write something successful and all. So in that place, we'll be writing some HTML. Let us see. We'll just set the context. Response dot set content type to, let us make it now. Your HTML will work in better way. Will be used in better way as such, right? Your HTML, and then let's say response dot get writer. You have, right? And now this is the time where you have to write the complete HTML. It's like this. Out dot, you have something called, let us say, print line, maybe print line of, here you have to mention your, let us say, I'll start it with HTML, close, and start it with body. You don't have to write, even if you don't write, doesn't matter, but as it is our first servlet where we are writing the HTML, let's write it down. Let's say you have your page, you have your something called, let me create one more tag here. No, we need these tags many, so let me just place it here. And the next tag, let us say I want to give it as body, right? And here what we'll do, we'll just say I want a form, right? On the same thing, whatever was in here, like HTML body, we are just writing it in a string format, so that our print writer will convert the complete string into, if it is an HTML tag, it knows what is the HTML tags and all, right? It will be converting the same thing. Now here let us say action is equal to, I want to give the action name as my servlet name. Let me just copy that servlet name, get back here, and give the action name here. Okay, these are form tag. Now after that we have to give input, right? So everything you have to type in actually. You won't be getting any sessions here, because there is something where you are actually creating your page using a string. Submit. And just say value as something called go to. Click to go, maybe. Let's say click to go. Yeah. Now close the tag. And then you have to close the form, right? And then you have to close the body, and then you have to close the HTML. That is what you have to do, right? You just wrote a very simple form, HTML, start and sorry, you have to close the body and close the HTML. It's okay, even if you miss something, the HTML is something, right? If you even miss any tag, it won't crash your page. It will try to show as many tags whatever are true. If you are missing anything, it will just skip that part, right? That is one beauty with HTML. Now we have created a simple page here, which is form action. Yes. Now let me run this servlet now, page 1 servlet. Now I'm running my servlet as such. I'm directly running. Now can you see here? Now let me just paste it up in my browser. Now you can see it feels as if you are actually moving in our page, but actually it is not a page. It is a servlet which we have created. And I said click to go. When I click here, can you see it went to my Google page. Now how? Because we gave something here in my send redirect. Now you can see here in my page 1 servlet, we just said action as send redirect to servlet. Now in this servlet we are going to some Google page. Now let us go to login page instead of that. Okay. Let's get back to the actual thing now. Now let me open the new session of this browser. Which is our page servlet, page 1 serve, right? Page 1 serve. And when I click on go, now you can see it went to the servlet, which is send redirect servlet, and it went to do get. It went to here, this statement, and we got a login.html. That is how you can write your own logic. You can write your own HTML here, right? So that it will be shown in a page. Now here you can also add your title, because your title was not correct. If you remember your page, so 1, here you can see, oops, right? You can see the URL here, right, which is not correct. Now if you want to show any title, now even the same tag you can use it here, which is out, right? I can use my out.println of. I said you can use a title here. Just say my servlet, myself, right? Just go back to this part and just say to restart your server. It takes a while, doesn't matter. But basically you don't have to start every time, because Tomcat will automatically restart whenever you change something. It will automatically synchronize your project, right? Let's go back and click. Now you can see the name as myself, right? That's how you can actually, so we are just checking out one design here. You can design the complete page as such, right, into this. You can do that. Now here, when I click on the, you can see, right, you can do login page, right? So that is how we use something called a logic to move from one resource. So now again here you can see I'm actually moving from my servlet to some other servlet again, right? But I'm actually using some, HTML page, HTML tags to move from one resource to other resource. Even this is something which is true, right? So this is how we actually collaborate between one servlet to different servlet, one servlet to different page. The same thing happens even here. If you create any JSP, yes, you can just replace this with JSP, it will go to that JSP. That is how it works, right? So this is a complete collaboration of your servlet collaboration, where we have seen few things of this, and these are the major, these are the only things which you can use to move from one servlet to any other things as such, right? So that is what we have in our servlet configuration. So let's wind up here, and tomorrow we will see something called servlet configs, which is very important topic, which is servlet configs, and we'll understand the next part of web.xml. Now in our web.xml till now what we have seen is we just saw something called welcome file, right? We were just showing this part. Now what we'll see this part. Now how these are created and all. We'll just check out them, right? Not to worry. We'll just check out this part. We'll create a new project and we'll see how these things works, because whenever you create any servlet, right, this is added by default. But tomorrow we'll see how it is added and how we can change them and how we can use them in our projects. Right? Any doubts still here, guys? From the start class of networking, from the start class of any web server technology, anything, right? You can just ask me. We have few minutes to go to class, end the class. Fine. Is everything fine? Any questions or anything? We can just start up with this, right? I hope you guys have started with this. If you have any, question with configuration of Tomcat, anything, you can just ask me tomorrow, right? Or now.
Yeah, I tried to, I've installed Tomcat and yeah, it's coming correctly. Yeah.
Okay, so you are in process of using that, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I was not able to, do any further, but at least Tomcat, it's coming correctly. I'm able to.
Okay, so you have installed or you have downloaded and kept as a normal folder?
No, I downloaded and then I once it did into my C drive.
Okay.
But I'm able to see things properly, like like just
Okay,
one.
so you are able to actually, tag your Tomcat to Eclipse?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, perfect. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Then that's fine. Then whatever you want to
Yeah.
do inside, you can do that. Not a problem, sure.
Yeah. And you'll be sharing these things that you have created today, right?
I'll share these things right away. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. And Srinath, there is one session which is missing. I mean, that file is corrupted or something.
Which one?
Let me check that because
Sure.
we have time.